underneath. We're just about there.
Oh, I'm like,
And the
where's the
vertebrae
flag?
moves underneath, I guess. So I did something to throw it. I guess I had it thrown down, and it goes away.
Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting, May 1st. If you could please stand for the allegiance. Roll call, please.
Mayor Fallendorf,
Here.
Vice Mayor Herman,
Here.
Councilmember Behill,
Here.
Councilmember Matilde,
Here.
Councilmember Oliveira.
Here.
At our last council meeting on 4/17, we adjourned into closed session after the regular meeting. It was in pursuant to Code Section 54957, Public Employment. Direction was given to staff, no action. We just came out of closed session at 5:30, and that was conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Direction was given to staff, no action. At this moment, before we go on to the approval of the agenda, there has been a request by staff to amend the agenda. I understand there has been some confusion, and unfortunately, the attorney is not here tonight due to unforeseen circumstances. There's a request for a consideration of a motion to pull agenda item 7C, and I will move on to staff for further comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members and the public. So to clear up the record, I think there has been some miscommunication or confusion as to the nature of item C related to the ballot measure for cannabis. And so due to that confusion, and in order not to perpetuate that, any confusion that may have been disseminated or miscommunication, staff's recommendation is to pull item 7C from the agenda from the meeting tonight, which would require a motion and approval by the council in order to remove that. And again, on this particular item, I would like to clarify that this was something that was suggested and presented by staff, so from legal counsel, in order to be placed on the agenda, and not something that was considered by the council at some earlier point and directed to staff to do. So again, just for the clarification, staff's recommendation is to remove this item from the agenda at this time.
With that being said, is there a motion to pull the item 7C?
So move.
There a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to agenda amendment. We have an emergency agenda item that council to consider. City staff has requested the City Council to add a budget amendment item to the agenda for the purpose of repairing the fire department's inoperable fire truck. According to the fire department, immediate repair of the fire truck is necessary to avoid any possible stoppage in the fire protection services based in the city's current fleet. The item was not posted with the original agenda and does not meet the Brown Act 72-hour posting requirement. However, in limited circumstances, the City Council may consider any item that is not included on the posted agenda. Under Government Code Section 54954.2, Subdivision B, the Council may hear the item upon determining a two-thirds vote that the city must take immediate action, and that the need for action came to the attention of the city after the agenda was posted. The city only became aware of the necessary of a budget item for the city's inoperable fire truck after the agenda was posted. And in city staff opinion, the repair is absolutely necessary to prevent any potential stoppage in the fire protection services. Is there a motion to add item 7D to the agenda to approve Resolution 1824, authorizing the purchasing authority in the amount of $16,307.50 to RL Lighty Enterprise for the engine rebuild for fire truck E211 and a subsequent budget adjustment.
I'll move.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that will be added to our agenda. Okay. With those amendments, is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So move.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this portion of the meeting, we will move on to public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda. State law prohibits the council from acting upon matters not listed on the agenda. Is there any public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Debbie Pani. I'm Executive Director of Destination Angels Camp, and tonight I'm representing the Board of Directors who passed a resolution on April 30th by majority vote to approve Measure A in support of Measure A for the Mark Twain Healthcare District. And I'd like to read that resolution into record. Whereas the Board of Directors of Destination Angels Camp Corporation does hereby find as follows in support of Measure A on the June 5th, 2018 ballot. Whereas the passage of Measure A allows the Mark Twain Healthcare District to sign a new lease with the nonprofit Mark Twain Medical Center Corporation / Dignity Health and take other actions assuring a 10 to 30 years of hospital operation with substantial investments by Dignity Health in the Mark Twain Medical Center and community services, continuing hospital care, emergency care, and other services at the medical center, and supporting medical services provided by the district. Whereas Measure A is a new 30-year lease that will position the Mark Twain Healthcare District to best fulfill the county's healthcare gaps with lease revenue from Dignity Health that can support new services for our community and can position the healthcare district to partner with other organizations such as Destination Angels Camp to leverage available funds for the expansion of new business as it relates to health and wellness of our community. Whereas Measure A will help to secure Mark Twain Medical Center and its 7 medical centers and specialty clinics in Calaveras County and Angels Camp, ensure a county general acute care hospital, and guarantee continuum of services, including telehealth services. Whereas Measure A will help to provide for the economic health to Calaveras County and to Angels Camp, providing over 300 jobs and generating $30 million per year in the area. Provide Mark Twain Medical Center Foundation a $2 million grant and provides revenue to the district that will be used to expand health and wellness for our community. And it is noted that Measure A does not increase taxes for medical care to the citizens of Calaveras County. Whereas Measure A ensures a dependable and stable physician and provider workforce and will continue to actively recruit additional physicians and mid-level providers to our area. Whereas Measure A prevents Mark Twain Medical Center from possible closure, as studies indicate small rural hospitals cannot exist independently. Whereas Measure A enables rapid access to inpatient and outpatient specialty care in a reputable system like Dignity Health, where their specialty care is rated as some of the best in the country. Now therefore it be resolved, Now therefore it hereby proclaimed that the Board of Directors of Destination Angels Camp on this 30th day of April 2018 by majority votes of the board to support Measure A. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public?
Good afternoon, Lance Rinke. I'd like to urge and
I'm sorry,
request.
I didn't catch your name.
Lance Rinke.
Thank you.
I would like to urge and request that the City Council and the Mayor put an item on the agenda to review and vote on a permanent ban to the urgency ordinance that was enacted earlier this year. That's what I would like to have done and have it as an item. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other? You might have a pull.
This will move.
Okay.
Good evening. Vicki Ranke, 332 Catalpa in Angels Camp. And I came to speak tonight to the item that was pulled from the agenda, so now I will speak on it at comments to the audience. And I heard what the attorney said about pulling it because there was some confusion. And that was one of my points, was that never have we had this discussion happen at a city council meeting, except for on April 3rd, when you were discussing the tax for the TOT or putting a sales tax. The attorney mentioned something about, well, we could maybe put on a cannabis tax. And it was like, oh, where did that come from? So I had gotten up at that meeting and said, what cannabis tax are you talking about? And he kind of made a comment, and then I said, well, if you're going to do cannabis tax in the city, you better get the notice out way ahead of time and let people give their input, because this is a very hot issue in Angels Camp. And so, and then it came up, the same taxes came up on the April 17th meeting about the TOT and the tax for the sales tax. Never was cannabis mentioned. And then we find out today that this cannabis tax is being put forward to you to vote on tonight, which I'm pleased to see it was pulled, but it should never come back. It should never have been there. That is not an issue that any discussion was had. We all know that in Angels Camp, the people do not want commercial marijuana here. You know, people can smoke it in their house or whatever. But so I'm glad it got pulled, but I also suggest that you never bring that back, and that, yes, we take care of that urgency ordinance that was put into place and make that a permanent ordinance in Angels Camp and be done with it, and let the people of Angels Camp have their lives so we don't have to keep coming back for the same issue with the same complaints and the same reasons. So thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Nope. Okay.
Mayor?
Moving forward.
Amanda.
Sorry.
Mayor, for the record, even though the item was pulled as to related to the cannabis ballot measure, our recommendation is that the council, at that time that it would have been discussed, open for public comment if there are members of the public that would like to comment only as to the cannabis ballot measure, not as to whether it should be regulated or not. That was not the agenda, the item that was agendized. But at that time, we recommend opening for public comment if the public wants to wait at that point.
Okay. Thank you.
Ann Forrest, 1545 Tryon Road, and I'm here tonight as a member of the Museum Commission. The chairman, Ron Rivero, was planning to come, but I think he's at the fire station. And we wanted to make not only the council, but the public who watches and listens to this meeting aware of the fact that there is an opening on the Museum Commission. It's a 3-year term appointed by the council, and anyone who is interested in the museum and being on the commission could apply through either the city's website or by calling City Hall. And they do not have to live in Angels Camp to be on the commission. There'll be another opening before the end of the year, so we hope that the public out there would be interested. And in addition, the museum needs volunteers and docents to work with the visitors. We're always in need of that, so anyone who has some time to give and learn more about the history of Angels Camp and the Mother Lode, we would welcome them to either call the museum or City Hall. Just as a reminder, the Angels Camp Museum is one of the largest and best Gold Country museums in California, and Northern California has 3 buildings and 5 acres, and one of the largest carriage and wagon collections in the United States. It's a real matter of community pride, and I can say from experience that it's a great opportunity to get to know more about the history of Angels Camp. So please sign up.
Will we be posting that on the website or anything of the announcement?
The
Okay.
Museum Commission announcement is on the website.
Okay, thank you.
I was a little confused by the attorney's distinguishing between the public comment on the cannabis issue. Are we now allowed to, about the tax, talk about the tax?
Items or comments from the public about the tax issue
Okay.
can be opened at the time that we normally would have had the item. There's not going to be
Oh,
any
not
council
now.
direction. Right. Public comment at this point is for anything that's not on the agenda.
But it's not on the agenda right now.
It's not, but we are going to open the item for public comment later on in the
Okay.
agenda as well.
So just as Jack Lynch of 600 Selkirk Ranch Road, just for clarification then, even though the agenda item is pulled, you're still going to have public comment on an item that's pulled?
Our recommendation is based on the fact that the item was pulled at the meeting and there are individuals here who wish to speak on it. Our recommendation is to open for public comment. There won't be any action taken on the item.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill McManus. I'm chairman of the Committee to Ban Commercial Cultivation. We represent a lot of people in Angels Camp and the Angels Camp area as part of our organization. One of the hardest things to do is to keep people informed and involved in the process of government. When we get notification a day before a meeting that something as incendiary as marijuana is going to be on the agenda, we try to get that information out to as many people as possible. I'm glad that you pulled it. I would suggest that you not put it on the agenda for the future or dismiss that. I agree with some of the comments from the public that you need to move on to a permanent ban and get this thing over with and move on. As a matter of record, we get lots of emails from people throughout the county, and Angels Camp may consider itself an oasis within Calaveras County, but the things that happen in Angels Camp are a bellwether for a lot of the things that happen throughout the county, and people are concerned about that. And so we want, even though they're not your constituents, these are concerned citizens who have the same concerns as Angels Camp residents about the quality of life here. So there's lots of people out here tonight that aren't from Angels Camp. They came here because they're concerned. They would like to encourage you to do the right thing for Angels Camp, which in turn is the right thing for Calaveras County. So when you put it on the agenda for the future, if you could please give us as much notice as possible. We want to get people here to participate in the political process, and I would hope that you would strongly encourage or insist that your legal counsel be here to answer some very technical questions and some comments that I've heard that are a little disturbing. So we want to be able to ask those questions and have your legal counsel here, your city attorney, and not someone else. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that we can bring more people to Angels Camp so that they can see what's going on with city government here. And hopefully you will take their comments to heart, because we all live in this county and we all want what's best for everybody. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Okay. Moving on to item 6, consent agenda. The following consent agenda items are expected to be routine. They will be acted upon by the council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or interested person may request that any consent item be removed for discussion. At this point, is there any public comment regarding consent agenda? Nope. Okay. Is there any council comment?
Nope.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to regular agenda. 7A, approval of a contract between the City of Angels and Citygate Associates LLC in the amount of $63,774 for the completion of an organizational review and budget stabilization study. At this point, I will hand it over to staff.
Thank you. Staff recommends approval of a contract award with Citygate and Associates for the organizational review and budget stabilization study with direction to staff to negotiate the contract with an amount not to exceed $65,000. I'd like to point out my request is to negotiate the contract with a not to exceed of $65,000 versus the proposed $63,000 identified in the contract. I apologize for the clarification that's needed there. However, in discussions with staff and the evaluation team, we'd like to move forward with a citywide employee survey so that we conduct that in conjunction with department head and council member surveys as part of the organizational review. So with that, I would like to negotiate that added scope of work item with a not to exceed amount of $65,000. This item has been previously approved by the council for budget amendment with direction to staff to issue the RFP. The RFPs were reviewed by department heads who formed a review committee, and it was unanimous that Citygate be the contract award recommendation to the council. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the proposed scope of work.
Any question by council?
None here?
Okay, seeing no vote? No further discussion, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Wait,
Oh, sorry,
Public comment.
public comment? No public comment?
Again, I don't understand this. $63,000 is a huge amount of money to our little city. I don't understand why we're engaging with Citygate Associates. I did look them up and review what they did. To me, what we're looking at is some organizational and budget reviews. I don't understand why that's not a city manager's job and responsibility to do. In industry, as a manager, I'd manage million-dollar budgets and have to do organizational things, manage a lot of people, manage a lot of programs. But I didn't go and get outside help to do that. I can't believe $63,000. I mean, that's a huge amount that could go to our fire truck that needed $13,000, to our museum fund that we need. $63,000. I don't understand that at all. Why even bother to have a city manager if that can't be handled by the city manager in a small town of 3,000 people? I don't understand it. $63,000 is not a small amount to just go, yeah, check that box.
Any further public comment? Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Moving on to regular agenda, 7B, Resolution 1822, a resolution submitting a ballot measure to the city qualified voters at the November 6, 2018 statewide general election to impose 0.5% sales tax on gross receipt of any retail from the sale of all tangible personal property sold in the city. At this point, I will
Thank you.
Yep.
Staff recommends the adoption of the resolution as submitting a ballot measure to the city's qualified voters at November 6th general election, opposing the 0.5% sales tax on gross receipts. This item has been discussed for the past several meetings. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to council for your review and consideration, but the item is supported by staff.
Any discussion by council? Otherwise, I will go forward to public comment. Nope. Is there any public comment? related to the ballot.
Jack Lynch, 600 Selkirk Ranch Road. I have a two-part question which I would like to have a response to. First is, why is the city attorney the person that is writing up this request to put it on the ballot? It would seem to me be appropriate to have a financial person or an administrative person on the city staff rather than an outside city attorney. The second part, I'd like to help me understand a little bit why we're needing $400,000 projected revenue from the 0.5% increase in sales tax, when recent times you had a loss of 20,000 and a loss of 100,000. It seemed to me that if you're trying to get something passed, and given the past experience in the city, you'd be something that's close to what your financial needs are. So again, why are we looking for 400,000 where recent times you had losses of 20,000 and this year you're projecting 100,000? And I need an answer to that. Thank you.
So your response on why there is not a financial person currently, because we have someone, Mike, filling in. We do not have a financial individual that is full-time at the city. So to help staff with the language that's appropriate for legal, we have asked, direction has been given to staff for the city administrator and legal to act on behalf with our current financial officer that is here in the interim until we can find a full-time financial officer. If that deems to be the case, should the city be able to afford it? Now, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa for the second part of your question.
Thank you. So the staff report, though sponsored and from our city attorney, much of the information in the staff memo was directed from my initial memo to the board when we initiated the discussion about the sales tax increase. The analysis and the information put forth is, in fact, from your city administrator. The information developed by our city attorney is, in fact, the Ordinance 482 as proposed for council consideration, as well as the developed language for the proposed sales tax measure. So for that clarification, I provide to you. You are correct that the gap in terms of general fund deficit spending over the past few years has been closing, but it's been closing at a cost, as this council has been discussing those costs for the past several meetings as we've discussed this item. Those include not filling vacant positions, critical positions as they might be in our fire department, our public works department, and that's come at the cost of cutting salaries and wages within the general fund operations budget. So the question that the council has asked, is this sustainable? How do we reverse this trend? And then how do we provide a growth strategy for the city? That's why we're here today with the proposed ballot initiative for the sales tax increase and the organizational review and budget stabilization study to make sure that as a city we're moving forward as effectively as possible, as efficiently as possible, and then providing an opportunity for strategic investments that maximize growth in our community. So hopefully that summarizes the discussions that we've been having on this item for the past few months now, I believe, or at least few meetings. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have as it may pertain to those public comments. Also, if legal counsel has any additional information that you'd like to provide in the development or authorization of the ordinance.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. As a point of clarification for the council, our role is to help draft the resolution that will be presented to the Board of Supervisors for consolidation of the election and to ensure that we meet all the requirements of the election code and provide specific language. Everything that we do is obviously done in consultation with staff, and the information is provided by staff. We're there to make sure that everything is lined up the way that it's supposed to be.
I was also going to comment. Oh, go ahead.
It's like a news conference, a follow-up question. Given the comments that we've now received, it would seem to me appropriate that if you have item number 1, which has to do the study, and look at defining exactly what your business plan, your future plan is, you would then know precisely what your financial needs are, and to be able to make that as the presentation to the public as to why we're going to impact the businesses of the city and the residents who have to pay that tax, a 0.5% increase in tax. It would seem to me as though your sequence would be item number 1, get your needs well defined versus what's defined in this proposal. My only comment.
That is why the council approved the first item, because we want a strategic plan going forward with the current item in front of us. This is council gave this direction to staff to follow through on both those items. So if the current item is able to go forward, we will be including that with the consultant to outreach and do the appropriate communication with the public. Is there anything else you would like to add to that?
No further information to add.
Okay. But in order to move forward, we have to put both items in front of us so we know what the consultant is going to be outreaching about. So they can't outreach if we don't have an agenda item to give them. So without any further ado, is there any other public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On behalf of Destination Angels Camp, I'd like to also share that for the last several months, we have been doing a number of community outreach, seeking input from business owners in Angels Camp and residents of Angels Camp. To date, we've had 62 different business owners come to the table with us and discuss pros and cons about sales tax, TOT tax. And to date, we've had 42 citizens come to the table and talking about, again, sales tax and TOT and what services are most needed. We've noted in the last 2 years, as we've studied and looked at the budget, attended various budget meetings that City Council has had, which certainly has been public, that there is a structural deficit within the city, and that each year more and more of the reserves are being used for essential services. We also note the number of services that are being drastically reduced. It's possible, as we look at our police department and our fire department, essential law, and public safety services, as we look at our roads and conditions of our roadways, public works is being cut, our parks, and so on and so forth. So we're pleased to see that you are taking this seriously, as well as doing the various studies to further demonstrate and justify the need. And we're also happy to see that it go to the voters in November, so it gives us some time to continue to talk to the public and to help educate and inform as to why this is important. There's also been a lot of studies that have been conducted in regards to the sales tax and where we stand with counties around us. And I think as we put together and look at how we can do some better education informing to the community, they'll see some big differences in that regards. We will, as a DAC board, be bringing this forward in a resolution to the City Council to help support this endeavor.
Any other public comment? Okay. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 1820?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I have a comment on this. Jack, your point was well taken. The actual deficits are less than the budget deficits every year. Staff has done an amazing job at keeping the expenses tight in the budget. The budgets, though, even last year when we passed our budget, it was passed at a certain negative, I think it's 57,000 or something like that. We stated at the time that this does not include a whole bunch of capital improvements that we're putting off, we're kicking down the road. Look at the roof on City Hall. Look at Utica Park, the gazebos, the playgrounds, the shade structures. We've been down a police officer for 4 or 5 years, and now we're down 2 or 3 of them. We're down a public works supervisor. We're down a fire chief. So we are, and we have one less 6-figure city administrator position, or city administrative position. So we're on a shoestring budget, and that doesn't even count the growing CalPERS, the growing unfunded retirement liabilities that we have, they're growing by millions. So, yeah, we need $400,000. We probably need a little more than that. We need to grow our way out of it. The taxes is, whether you believe in the taxes or not, that's going to be up to you and up to the voters to decide. That's why we're putting this on the ballot. But the city needs that revenue to sustain services that we'd all like to see maintained. And so I just wanted to make that statement. We're not trying to get a bunch of money so we can do a bunch of frivolous stuff. We're still playing catch up.
Thank you. Any further?
Yeah, and I had wanted to, but I think Scott handled it and covered everything I was going to say.
Any other comment? Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution number 1822?
I'll move the item.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0.
Mayor, at this time, as we discussed previously, our recommendation is to open up for public comment, any comments from the public related to the cannabis tax ballot measure only. The council won't be taking any action on that, but based on the fact that the item was removed from the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, we'd request that you open for public comment.
If there is public comment going forward, I request that you keep the outburst to minimal. If you do want to do that, I suggest that you go outside to continue your conversation. At this point, we'll open a public comment related to the ballot measure only. It had nothing to do with anything else related to cannabis. So ballot.
I'm Trish Frazier. I live on Rocky Ridge in Angels Camp and have been in the county for 20-some years. I found out about this meeting, the agenda item today, and I was appalled to find out today about it, and also appalled to find out that at least one of our city council members only found out about it about seeing the agenda. That is, it's been very clear in our community how Angels Camp citizens feel about the issue of marijuana. We do not want it in our
Can you please keep
city.
it to the ballot measure only?
And so the ballot measure, if it comes up again, should be well forecast so that we can get a representation in the city council meeting of those of us that are against anything that has to do with marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other?
Jack Lynch, 600 Selkirk Ranch Road. To benefit the brand-new staff that we have a brand-new city attorney, we have a new city administrator, we have a new planning director, et cetera, and we have new council members. This issue is really something that I think it's very important that the staff understands as well as the council. A little history on this item. In the election year of 2016, we all remember that, there was a recreational marijuana proposition on the ballot. 80% turnout in Angels Camp occurred of registered voters. And our city voted against Prop 64 by a vote of 57% no and only 43% yes. And that gives the new staff members a sense of how the people in Angels Camp felt about recreational marijuana. That's a strong message, and the citizens whom the council represents must take that into account when we get any discussion of marijuana. Also, in the year of 2016, that's the same year, the council, which was in place at that time, voted for a complete ban of marijuana in the city of Angels. So you not only had the citizens voting, 57...
It has to stay to the ballot measure, not related to the ban,
I can't talk about it?
unless it's related to the ballot measure.
This is the ballot measure.
Go ahead.
The ballot measure is, the question raised at that point, which will not be considered by the council tonight, is whether to place a measure on the November ballot to institute a cannabis tax on cannabis businesses. Any discussions about cannabis regulation in general, as the mayor noted before, is not on the agenda.
If you don't mind, out of courtesy, I would like to make sure the new staff of the city understands the background of this issue. And I'd like to help me understand, why are we looking at a ballot measure tonight to vote on a tax of marijuana when we've already voted to ban it? We voted.
I've asked you to, if you want to continue that, you can go outside.
Pardon?
I set the rules in the front of the meeting, which was no outburst. Go ahead.
I don't understand it. I'm asking, why are we voting on a measure that we've already
Time.
voted? We've already voted 5-0 on. Obviously, council and staff is not willing to have an open discussion on this matter.
Susan Morse, Angels Camp. That was going to be my question tonight, is why would we establish a business tax on gross receipts of a marijuana business if such business was allowed, when we have no such businesses? Why is this being done? My question is, what's the background on this?
Let me address this. That's one of the reasons this issue has been pulled from the agenda. It's a very good question. And the item's been pulled from the agenda.
Does that mean a temporary pull, or does that mean it's done?
So for the meeting tonight, the item has been pulled. There will be no consideration by the council. This is only to provide the public an opportunity to provide their comments, but no action will be taken. So in terms of keeping everybody on track of what we're trying to accomplish here.
And because I think you all deserve answers, speaking for myself only, the only thing I want to see come back regarding cannabis is a permanent ban of the ordinance. Period.
Thank you.
Yeah, and speaking for myself only, I support that as well.
And I'm also having the same.
Okay, we're keeping it to the ballot measure at this point, not the ban. Unfortunately, as it was stated earlier in the meeting, that the staff that was going to do the presentation, unfortunately, not even the council members are privy to that information because the presentation was going to be given tonight. But given that the item has been pulled because that staff member is not available to not only educate the public, but educate the council on what the tax ballot discussion was going to be, there is no discussion for council because it was not brought from council to put on the agenda. It was a staff recommendation. So there's no opinion from council because just like you, everyone in the audience, we were expecting a presentation tonight. So currently, the item has been pulled.
So basically, forgive me, but so basically, staff runs the business of the county? They run not the county, the city?
No, Susan, they
It was
don't.
merely a presentation.
The item was pulled.
Okay.
Staff does not run the show.
Thank you.
Gina Gonzalez, Bar 20. Thank you for stating your opinion. It's very respected. I live out in the country where we know that there's grow after grow. If it's my opinion, the tax, there's no reason for a tax. There's no product here to tax, and I'm hoping with all my prayers that there won't be a tax. If it is brought back here, I can guarantee you that not only this room, but 5 other rooms will be full of people. If that's something, I know that I've educated myself all week, last week and part of this week, on what this means, this tax means. We all, as citizens, need to educate ourselves on this issue and come up with an educated opinion. It's not for Angels Camp. It's not for Angels Camp. It's not a moneymaker. It's only a moneymaker if. And when we ban it, we banned it. Thank you.
Is there any other further public discussion?
My comments are related to the process of putting something on the ballot in November possibly, and if it comes up at a future meeting. Some of the comments that I've heard and read from your city attorney would indicate that someone is trying to pressure the council or staff into putting this on the ballot. Like if you don't do it, the state is going to come in and they're going to do all sorts of things to the city. And in order to avoid that, you need to get this on the ballot. So it seems like there's kind of an effort to stampede people towards getting it on the ballot when there's really no need to. Now, we've been doing this for a long time, and I hate to bore you with this, but I'd like to read it into the record. And if you would like a copy of my statement, be more than happy to email it to you. The City of Angels Camp does not have to comply with what the state tells it to do on certain issues. The one issue that is guaranteed by the state constitution is that cities and counties have jurisdiction over their land use. That is something the state cannot interfere with. This whole issue is about land use. So if you'll bear with me, I don't get all of this all of the time. That's why I read it, so it's correct. It'll be in the record, and hopefully your city attorney can review it. In May 2013, the California Supreme Court issued its decision in City of Riverside versus Inland Empire, Patients Health and Wellness Center Incorporated et al., holding that cities and counties have the authority to ban marijuana land uses.
That going to continue to be related to the ballot, the tax ballot?
No, this is about even putting it on the ballot. What I'm saying is, this is the justification that you don't have to do it. Despite what you may be told by your city attorney, there is no requirement for you to move forward getting something on the ballot for the people to vote on. This is not about whether people should vote yes or no on the measure. This is about whether it should even be there in the first place. And what I'm giving you is information that the city has the authority to act on its own and not be pressured by the state. And comments made through staff or in meetings or whatever, that you somehow have to conform to state policy is absolutely false. Either they are ignorant of the law or they are trying to pull something on you and lead you down a path that you don't have to go down. All I'm giving you is the justification that reiterates the authority that the City of Angels Camp has on this matter. It has nothing to do with the benefits or anything else of a tax. It is the process that I'm talking about. And as I understand it, it was the process that you wanted to discuss in public comments now, and not the content of the ballot measure.
If there's anything that the public would like to submit for the record, that can be done with the city clerk's
I'm sorry, I can't
office.
hear you.
If there's any written comments or information that the public would like submitted as part of the record of the meeting, it can be submitted to the city clerk's office.
It needs to be made what?
It can be submitted to the city clerk's office.
Okay. Now, I spent a lot of my time answering your question. Can I get some more time to finish my statement?
That's subject to the council's discretion.
Sure.
Do you have the clock ready?
How much time do you want?
Give you a minute.
Pardon me?
Okay, I don't know where I left off, but the California State Supreme Court ruled in City of Riverside versus Inland Patients and Wellness Center, Inc., 56, California, 4th, 729, in 2013, nothing in the CUA or MMP expressly or implies limits to the inherent authority of a local jurisdiction by its own ordinances to regulate the use of its land. Additionally, in Morale versus City of Live Oak, 2013, 221 Cal Appellate 4th, 975, 983, reviewed, denied, 2014 Cal Lexus, 2402, March 26, 2014. The same Court of Appeal held that there is no right, and certainly no constitutional right, to cultivate marijuana. The court in Live Oak affirmed the ability of a local government entity to prohibit the cultivation of marijuana, this is the important part, under its land use authority. That's what you need to remember. You have the authority to make these decisions, and when someone says the state of California is going to make you do something, I hope you resist. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Hi, Dan Pennell at 1260 Gold Cliff and here in Angels Camp. I'm a little confused. It sounds like there's a possibility the state's going to make us impose a tax on a product that we don't sell. And if that's true and the state is going to make us do that, then my recommendation is that we have a 1,000% sales tax to make it clear to anyone who wants to try to sell it here that it's going to be so costly that it's not worth coming.
Any other public comment? Oh, okay. If there's no action on this item, we'll move forward. Next item is the consolidated staff report. Oh, I'm sorry, back up. The new amended item for the fire truck. Sorry, Nathan.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Nathan Pry, Fire Marshal. Unfortunately, I'm bringing an item before you with not good news that one of our fire engines is in need of repair. This fire engine was purchased in 2007 with Community Development Block Grant money. It is our first out fire engine, and it is an all-risk, all-purpose fire engine that we rely on day in, day out to accomplish our mission. The backup that we're currently using is 19 years old. It's still in fairly good shape, but it cannot do the same things that our primary engine that is down right now can do. And we noticed during preventative routine maintenance that there was an oil leak. The oil leak, the mechanic suggested, looked like it was going to be a head gasket issue. It was taken down to a Cummins dealership in Stockton, who, upon further looking into the issue, noticed that the head on the motor was cracked. And so during that time, while the motor is exposed and we're replacing the head, it was suggested by him and recommended by Cummins that you also do an extensive pistons and linings and machine the head and essentially rebuild the entire motor. So with conditions coming up in the next few weeks that will be the start of fire season, we have frog jump coming up. This is an issue that we have our frontline fire engine that's capable of handling all emergencies at the time that we respond to them. We can't rely on staff, off-duty staff, as they're generally not available to us to bring us additional equipment that we need at the time of emergency. So with that, we're hoping and pleading that you will approve the item in front of you for the additional non-budgeted amount of $16,307 to repair the engine and get us back in service. Currently, the engine's down in Stockton, torn apart. The facility that the Cummins dealership isn't real excited about waiting too long for us to make a decision on where we go with this. That's kind of an urgency item for us as well. So that, without any additional questions, I'll leave it to you.
Any questions from council? Is there any public comment related to the fire truck? Nope. Okay. Bring it back to council.
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we can go on to, the next on the agenda is the consolidated staff report. In front of us, we have council has a report from staff. Is there any comment from the?
No comments from staff.
Okay. Is there any comment from council? Any public comment? No? Okay, I do have one question. I didn't see Dave Myers in here. Is he here? Oh, there you are. You're hiding. Can you fill me in, or the council in on what's happening in front of the Dollar General, all the pipes? I saw PG&E out there a couple days ago. They just, what's going on?
But I will tell you, when you stand up here, you really can't hear out of those speakers.
Oh.
So if I step back, I could hear you. Dollar General, they installed the water line, and I'll be bringing a staff item probably next meeting. That's one of those that we can reimburse them for some of the money. This is capital improvements. They've continued their work. They're actually doing all the infrastructure. They have the drainage in, the sewer, and well, I hope the sewer's in today. And the water line at present is pressurized and being tested for cleanliness. So within a day or two, we'll know if we can put that water line back into service. They don't have an idea when they're actually going to do the sidewalk and the paving in front. There's still a lot of factors in play, but it'd be at least a couple more weeks.
Thank you. Any council comment? Okay.
Oh, one last thing. Linda, the driveway is going to be 36 foot wide.
Okay. 36
Everybody's
foot.
wondering if the driveway is going to be real narrow.
Yeah.
It's going to be very wide.
I was looking again
Yes.
today and wondering, yeah, I'll be by to look at the plans.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
If there is no further comment by council, I will move on to council report. And I will start to my left with Councilmember Matheny.
None.
Vice Mayor?
Oh, I went to Cal Waste and with the group from DAC or ACPA, and fascinating to see my gosh, the huge bunch of, especially the recycle, it's like, huge. And I did find out there that I must not throw away my pizza boxes in recycling, which I didn't know. And so my son last night went to dump his pizza box into the recycling bin, and I stopped him. So I feel very good about that, and now I rinse out my cans a little better, too.
Councilmember Oliver?
19th, I attended the Museum Commission, and I just reinforce what Ann said earlier. We're still looking for a commissioner, and it'll be a great opportunity to get involved with the museum if anybody's interested. Solid Waste Task Force is a board that the city has a representative on, and the typical appointments to that board are a little bit different. You had to go through an application process, and I've gone through that, and the group is yet to meet in the 8 months that I've been here, but we'll see if there's a meeting on May 21st. There may be a forum for that now. On the 24th, the UWPA meeting was canceled. There was a number of people that couldn't make the meeting. And also that day, in my role as a docent at the museum, I participated in a group of middle school kids came up all the way from Palo Alto to see our little museum. So that was a pretty good day. They come every year, this group. And that's it for me.
Councilmember Beal?
No report.
On 4/18, I attended the Legislative Action Day down in Sacramento. We were updated on various issues. If the council is interested on the legislation that was reviewed in the presentation, you can, as well as the public, you can go to the League of California Cities website. And there is an outline of current legislation that is being presented to cities. Myself and a few other cities such as Modesto and Riverbank and Turlock, we met with Berry Hills Chief of Staff. Some hot topics that were discussed was our favorite pension liability and what the legislation is doing to help cities and counties find relief and finding a solution soon. SB 1, seems like down in the valley they have a huge surplus of illegal fireworks. The state does not have a process for disposing those other than maybe a fireworks show. So there was discussion on how to properly destroy compensated fireworks. On 4/22, I attended the museum carriage event. And then on 4/29, it was an honor to present the city proclamation to Biden Steveno's wife, Annie, at his memorial on which was held at the old schoolhouse in Murphy. And the city got a huge amount of support. So thank you all for that. And next on the agenda is the calendar.
Okay, tomorrow, May 2nd, 5:30 PM is COG, and following that at 6:30 PM is the Calaveras Transit meeting. May 10th at 6 PM is Planning Commission meeting at the Firehouse in Angels Camp. May 12th, from 10 AM to 4 PM is Living History Day at the Angels Camp Museum. And council is scheduled at 6 PM on the 15th at the Firehouse.
And if there's no further, we're adjourned.